You know, sometimes it's easy to take things for granted. If things have always been a certain way, then you don't know any different. And so for most of us here, Unity Temple has always been a certain way. And that is that our dear Reverend Duke Tufty has always been here with us. And so we might take him for granted sometimes, and certainly part of the issue is he hates to be recognized. So I'm going to embarrass my boss today because I think it's worth doing. The Unity Worldwide Movement has a very special award, and it is called the Charles Fillmore Award. As you know, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore are the founders of this wonderful movement and the reason why we are sitting in this fabulous building today. The Charles Fillmore Award is for those who have demonstrated dynamic leadership in the Unity movement, who have truly made a difference to pioneer innovative programs and that have achievements that indicate a visionary consciousness. If that doesn't describe our own Duke Tufty, I don't know what does. For those of you who may not know, Duke actually entered Unity School of Christianity in 1987. And he graduated in '89 and became an associate minister with Rosemary Fillmore Ray at a very small church in Mission, Kansas called the Myrtle Fillmore Chapel. At the time, this particular congregation was falling apart. And in fact, it was about to go bankrupt. And so Duke Tufty had a great idea. And his idea was that two congregations would merge. And I understand that they actually had some sort of a marriage, a wedding of two organizations coming together to help save this incredible building and this incredible place that we hold in the hearts of all people in the Unity movement. That was in 1991, and it is because of Duke Tufty that we are all sitting here today in a thriving spiritual community. But wait, there's more. Not only has Duke done everything he's done for this particular spiritual community, but he took it upon himself after being elected to the school, the Unity Worldwide School Movement. He was on the board of directors, and then he served as chairman of the board for the Worldwide Movement for 9 years through some very, very difficult times about 10 years ago, and finishing up a couple of years ago his service there. But he is one of the key factors that the Unity Worldwide Movement is thriving today. So much to his embarrassment, could we take a moment? He's going to get the Charles Fillmore Award on Thursday, and I thought we, as his congregation, could congratulate him on this achievement.
Thank you. Thank you. God, I don't know what you just did. Okay. Sit down. Thanks. Jesus Christ. Good morning, everybody. And how are we doing today? Yeah? Hey, McDaniel. Good to see you back. Anthony and Pamela, what a surprise all the way from Florida, is it these days? Good to see you up in the balcony in your regular seats. Anybody else new for the first time? Afraid I might pull you forward or something? Anyway, let's get down to business. Enough of this funny talk. This is we're in the midst of a series, and it's called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. That's the title of her book. And through the 8 weeks, we go through 8 simple little steps. Each week, one step is presented. It's a practice. We practice it through the week. And by the time we get to the end of the 8-week series, we're going to have 8 practices that can totally transform our lives. Now, last week, the first step was, it is what it is. And quite simply, it was moving us from a place where we resist life, we struggle with life, we argue with life, we curse life because we don't like the way life is. But the bottom line, if it is the way it is, we're best off to just embrace it and move with it. If there's nothing we can do about it, then get along with it. In Byron Katie's book, she brings out an illustration of you might love dogs, but you don't like the dog bark. So you get a dog, and every time the dog barks, you get upset or you get irritated, so you try to teach the dog how to meow. And you spend a great deal of your life teaching the dog to meow, and you're never successful. You're only living in frustration. Well, a dog barks, it is what it is. And that's the way it is with so many things in our lives. Life isn't perfect. It doesn't fit our ideal. We would like to see things change. But for where we're at in the 21st century on the planet Earth, living the lives that we're living, there are things that just are what they are. And so the best thing we can do is discover how we can fit into life as it is with all those things we can't change. It's like the unchangeable, and then change the unlikable. Change those things that we do have power over. The step today is about discovering the truth. We're born into this world. Our minds are like a brand new computer that has never been programmed. As we grow up, the outside world programs us with thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions that tell us who we are, what we are, how the world is, how we should act, even down to the point of what political party we should engage in. My father was a very strong Republican. He was on many Republican committees, and by God, his family is going to be Republican too. And that's just the way it was. And I remember the first time when I was able to vote, and my father was kind of cueing me on what people to vote for and what people not to vote for. And I got in my car and I headed down to the voting poll, and I just took a left turn and went to the pool hall. I never did vote. I just didn't have it in me to engage myself in that political process because a lot of the things that he was for, I wasn't. That was the truth of the matter. So we're raised and we have this set of beliefs. And a lot of the beliefs we have aren't based on truth. They're assumptions. And the assumptions have been passed down in many cases from generation to generation. They come at us from religion. Religion tells us, many fundamental religions tell us, that we are unworthy creatures, not worthy of God's love, sinful by nature. And so Byron Katie asks us to go through an inquiry on that particular belief. And the inquiry is 4 questions. The first is that true? Is that true that we're unworthy in the eyes of God and we're sinful by nature? Is that true? Well, the preacher told me it was true over and over and over again. I read it in books. It must be true. But then the second question is, are you absolutely positive that it is true? And when you go into that deeper inquiry, it's like, well, I really don't know if it's true or not. That's just what I've been told. The third question is, how do you feel when you think that thought? When I feel that I'm unworthy in the eyes of God and sinful by nature, I don't feel good at all. And the fourth question is, who would you be if you didn't have that thought? And I'd be a person that had much higher self-esteem. I'd be a person that would be of much more benefit to the world. I would be free of all the dogmatic assertions that have been plopped on top of me and liberated to the point where I'd be a better person. So those 4 steps is what we go through anytime we have a feeling that is disturbing to us or disrupting to us, because that's where most of the falsehoods lie. They lie in disturbance and disruption. Many of the beliefs we have about other people that stir up in us a sense of angst or a sense of anger aren't necessarily based on truth. They're assumptions that we have come to about why somebody did the thing they did or why they said the thing they said. See, the condition of the human being is such that we do not have the innate ability to distinguish the truth from the untrue. We don't know. We believe what's told us in many cases. We accept it as truth. Accepting it as truth, it becomes our reality, and we live according to that reality. We don't know. The mind cannot tell the difference between something real and something imagined in great detail with emotion. The second thing about the human condition is we want to be in control of our lives. We don't like not being in control. So when we move into a situation or a circumstance and we don't really know what's going on, we don't know the meaning behind it, we'll make something up because we don't like the uneasiness of being in limbo, not knowing what's going on around us. So we make something up. We make a story up. It might be true, it might not be true. But we make a story up, we believe it be true, so once again that becomes our reality. Many years ago a woman came to me, and she was in a great deal of suffering, a great deal of pain, and a great deal of anger. Her husband had started going out a couple nights a week. He told her that he had to work, and after a couple of months she came to the conclusion, she is absolutely positive, that he was having an affair. She began to withdraw from the marriage. He seemed to be preoccupied with something else. The marriage dwindled down to a point where there's no communication and there's no interaction whatsoever. She came to me because she had come to the conclusion that she wanted to get a divorce, that she was not going to live like this anymore. So we talked about it for a long time. 2 weeks later, she gets an invitation in the mail, and it's an announcement for graduation inviting her to the commencement exercises. And it was her husband's graduation ceremony. He had been going out twice a night to night school to get his high school diploma. Well, she was elated about this. She says, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he said, "For two reasons. First of all, I wasn't sure that I could do it. And if I couldn't do it, I didn't want to disappoint you. And second of all, honey, I did it for you. I wanted you to be proud of me." Now, there's a difference in living in truth or living in some sort of a false assumption. For 3 or 4 or 5 months, she lived in this state of despair and anger only because she believed something that wasn't true. Now, many of you here today, in fact, most of you, I'm sure, at some point in time have believed something to be true that wasn't true at all. I know one thing for sure that we all have in common. Most of us believe that we're not as good as we should be. And that might have been the result of our parents telling us that when we were growing up. It might have been the grades we got in school. We might have tried out for some sort of an extracurricular activity that we failed at. We might have got into a social circle where we were teased or we were rejected from some place, and something came and infected us with the "I am not as good as I should be" germ. Now that is totally false. If you feel you're not as good as you should be, I have the first question for you: is that true? You might say, "Well, yeah, it is true because I flunked out of college, and it is true because my father never told me I was as good as I should be. It is true because of all this evidence leading up to where I am now, where I have failed and I have fallen short of what I should be." So does that mean you're not as good as you should be? No. It means that you're absolutely perfect just the way you are. You're a student of life. You're not a graduate of life. We're all in this. We're learning. We're failing. We're picking ourselves up. We're trying again. We're succeeding. That is a false assumption that you're not as good as you should be. The second question is, are you absolutely sure that you're not as good as you should be? And hopefully by now that answer would be, no, I'm not. Well, how do you feel when you have that feeling? That feeling of unworthiness or inferiority or not being able to live up to the expectations of others. It doesn't feel good at all. Matter of fact, it can lead to a physiological reaction of feeling sick to your stomach. Excuse me. And the fourth question is, who would you be without that? Just imagine yourself for a moment having no self-criticisms, no self-condemnations, no self-rejections, but having unconditional approval for who you are. How would you feel? You would feel great. You would feel free to go out and live your life and not be worried or not be fearful about what might lie ahead. Many of the fears that come to us in a way where we're trying something new for the first time and we're afraid we might fail, or we're engaging in a relationship that is moving into a greater depth of intimacy and we get a little bit scared because we think it's not going to last. Anything new that we haven't tried before, there's a certain fear: can I do it, can I do it, can I do it? And in most cases, we come back at ourselves with kind of a negative reference as to, I'm not sure I can. I might fail. What will other people think? So is that true? Is it absolutely true? How do you feel when you have that feeling? Who would you be without it? Last week, or earlier this week, I got a call from a wife of a friend of mine telling me that he had died. Good friend, hung around in high school. There was a big gang of us, and we just flat out raised a whole lot of hell together. It was the pool hall gang. And we did stuff we weren't supposed to. We smoked and we smuggled beer out of our parents' refrigerator, and we drove fast up and down the highway going to all the little dances around Sioux Falls. Well, she asked me if I would be honored to do the funeral. And I said, yes, I would. And the minute I hung up the phone, I came to the determination that I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go back there and face all my old cronies. None of them are religious. None of them go to church. None of them know me as this, you know, a preacher. And I thought, what am I going to say? How can I stand there and look at all these people and be up there and give the last words or the final words to one of us that have died? And it still bothers me to this point. And a part of me says, I can't do this. A part of me says, they're not going to like me. A part of me says, I don't know what to say, and I won't know what to say. But as I was putting together this lesson, well, is that the truth? Is it true that I'm going to go up there and I'm going to deliver a memorial service and that my old friends aren't going to like me? And I thought, yeah. It probably is the truth. And then the second question was, well, are you absolutely positive it's the truth? And so that took me to deeper inquiry. I said, well, maybe they found God. Maybe they're born-again Christians. No, they're not. Maybe they think I'm a born-again Christian, which I'm not. But is it the absolute truth that they won't like me? Or that they will think that I'm just sort of a puffed-up preacher that's coming up that'll lay all sorts of Bible stuff on them? So then the third question comes up, well, how does that make me feel? Well, it makes me feel scared. It makes me looking for nails on the highway going up so I can get 4 flat tires and not have to get to my destination. But then the fourth question is, well, how would I feel if I didn't have that thought? If I didn't have those fears, if I didn't have that anxiety, if I wasn't afraid of them not liking me, if all of that disappeared, how would I feel? And I came to the point where I feel good. I think that I am better going up there and burying that friend than any other preacher on the continent because I know him, I know the audience, I know exactly what to say without lathering it up with a whole bunch of God stuff and heaven and hell and sin and condemnation and that kind of thing, that I am chosen for that job and I can go up and do it in confidence. Yeah. So then a part of myself says, really? You really believe that? I'm still working on it. I get 6 hours tomorrow in the car to go up there and try to get my head on straight. So, is it true? Anything you believe that's upsetting you, that's disturbing you, that creates any sense of self-condemnation or self-rejection, just ask yourself, is it true? And then is it absolutely true? And with deeper inquiry, for most of those things, you'll come to a point where you'll say, no, that's not true at all. It's a story that I've made up. It's based on a false assumption. It's based on what somebody else has told me. But it is not true, and I don't feel good thinking it. And if I didn't have that feeling, I would be a different person. So you're in charge of your thoughts. Nobody else can put a thought in your mind and have it stick there unless you accept it. You're the one that's behind the driver's seat when it comes to your thoughts, attitudes, feelings, and perceptions. You get to choose what goes in. You get to choose how you express it. So by going through these 4 steps, we come to learn that many of the things that we live our lives by, the false assumptions that hurt us, that hold us back, that put us down, aren't true at all. We begin to move beyond that. Next week, we move into the 3rd step, which is on self-judgment. You know, we are harder on ourselves than anybody else. There are 2 people inside us. There is that judge that casts down all sorts of guilt and shame and old recordings from people that have have put us down. And then there's the other person, the poor little soul that's just trying to live life the best he or she can. And this badgering of one over the other is what really holds us back from being who we are. Because we're afraid if there's a part of ourselves that doesn't like us, then there's all sorts of other people that aren't going to like us as well. And that's not living your life. That's living the life somebody else wants you to be, or that's going out every day and fighting the toughest battle that you'll ever fight, because we live in a world that's constantly trying to change who you are and make you somebody who you aren't. Whether it be through advertising, peer pressure, whatever it might be, that's the way the world is, and it just is the way it is. But we don't have to be affected by it. We can step out of that whole dynamic of what does everybody else think, I better hold back because I'm afraid of being me, and just march through life with confidence and march through life so set in who we are that nothing out there can change that. And in doing so, we become a beneficial presence to the world, because the world needs you. It doesn't need a fake you. It doesn't need a better you. It needs you right now out there interacting with your friends, interacting with your family, being who you are, because in your truest sense, your natural sense, you're an expression of divine spirit. Now, this happens to be GLBT month. Excuse me, LGBT. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual. It's Gay Pride Month. It is a time when people of a different lifestyle, of the homosexual lifestyle, stand up and claim themselves for who they are. Now, many of you have gone through this, whether it be your lifestyle or whether it be your race or whether it be something else. You've gone through all sorts of discriminations and prejudices. For the gay lifestyle, it's very difficult to come out and express yourself who you are, because there's people out there that will condemn you. We've had people that used to march in front of the church with big signs that were so horrific in nature that they were offensive to everybody. But this month, Unity Temple, we applaud you, we support you, we love you as one of our own, and we say you just be who you are, and everything is going to be okay. There'll never be everybody out there that's going to love you, but when you walk through these doors, you're going to be accepted and supported. So as they move through meditation, I want you to start thinking about some of the things inside your head that judge you in a harsh way. And let's try to move to a point where between this week and next week, we go through the truth test. We begin to ask, is it true? Is we absolutely positive if it's true? How does it make me feel? Who would I be without it? And then go to the point where we are without it. We set it down and we walk beyond it. We'll now move into meditation. sense of serenity. We might have to wade through many fears, disturbing thoughts, aches, pains, worries, anxieties, but it is there. It is always there. They say there's a place in the depth of the oceans where the water always remains calm. Turbulence may strike out on the surface, the waves may be high, the wind might be strong, but in the depths, the water is still. And we have that same place within us, a place where we can go and there is no discord, there is no negative chatter, and there is no fear. Life is a process. It's an inside-out process. Everything begins inside of us, in our thoughts and our feelings, and everything moves outside of us to affect something in the world around us. When we have a positive effect in the world, we are a beneficial presence. And that is the nature of each and every one of us. So as I speak these words, please make them your own and say them to yourself. I wish myself well. I wish myself happiness. I wish myself free of all suffering. I think of somebody in your life that is very special to you. And say, I wish them well. I wish them happiness. I wish them free of all suffering. Think of a person you're in a relationship with and there is conflict and discord. Your feelings at this point towards that person are not harmonious. They're not loving, but they are disturbing and they are angry and there's even resentment. And then say to yourself, I wish them well. I wish them happiness. I wish them free of all suffering. Now let your spirited thoughts move beyond you and think of every person in this room, every person in this city, in this country, every person in the world, and say, I wish them well. I wish them happiness. I wish them free of all suffering. All is well. Life is what it is. We go forward to make it better.
The Bible tells us, discover the truth, and the truth will set us free. Will set us free of what? The truth will set us free of anger. It'll set us free of pain. It'll set us free of suffering. It'll set us free of resentment. It'll set us free of any disharmony in our lives. So we will go forth to discover the truth, to be who we are, and to make the world a better place because of this.